Chairman,
Mr. Greenberger.
if I can address the question, I would urge you to keep the provision in the statute. Mr. Gooch talks about CDS buying protection. We're talking about naked CDS. Naked CDS, there's no need to protect. It's a bet that in the case of subprime mortgages, that the homeowner will not pay his mortgage or her mortgage. These get paid off if the collateralized debt obligations fail. The collateralized debt obligations are a security interest in homeowners paying their mortgages. These are people who don't have the security interest in that. John Paulson in 2007 took out these naked credit default swaps, and because there were so many forfeitures of your constituents, he was able to take home $4 billion that year. Now, he was lucky because he got to the window when the people who were issuing the guarantees still had money. AIG ran out of money. And by the way, you and I and your constituents are now sending money in the front door of AIG and Citigroup and other concerns that we're giving money to, so it will go out the back door to pay to people who took a naked bet that homeowners would not pay their mortgages. This has, because you are having bets out there that have no reflection of the real economic debt, as Eric Dinallo told you, it's magnifying the problems by threefold. Somebody says eightfold. In other words, more people are betting the mortgages will be paid that won't be paid than there are mortgages. With regard to your correlation between the SEC short and this, I believe that Chairman Cox, a former member of the House of Representatives and the President Bush's chair of the SEC, wants to ban naked credit default swaps because it's a way to get around the regulated equity markets. In other words, if you think GM is going to fail, you buy a naked credit default swap on GM, even if you don't own a bond in GM. And then what do some of those people do? It's reported they go out and take every action they can take to encourage the failure of GM. In the case of insuring subprime loans, Barney Frank has made the point when banks have gone in and tried to renegotiate to leave people in their houses, that hurts the people who have guarantees for the failure. So they're bringing lawsuits to prevent that renegotiation. These naked credit default swaps create the grossest form of moral hazard. From 1789, when this republic was founded, to the mid-90s, we didn't have credit default swaps or naked credit default swaps. I ask you, are your constituents, when you go home, saying, please, please, please allow us to have naked credit default swaps? No. It's the bankers who got us into this problem who want these naked credit default swaps. They should be banned, and I believe if this committee doesn't do it, it will be done by the SEC, and it will be the first step in the pillar to say the CFTC is not doing the job. Let's get rid of it and put it in the SEC.
Thank you very much. The time has expired. Mr. Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did anyone else on the panel like to comment on what Mr. Greenberg just offered up?
And it's a slippery slope. I mean, Mr. Greenberger confuses manipulation with speculation. Clearly, a stockholder of General Motors is entitled to sell his stock, but should only a stockholder of General Motors be able to sell that stock, or should somebody be able to speculate outside of whether or not he is a current stockholder or not? I mean, it seems to me Mr. Duffy's absolutely correct. At a time when credit is so tight, anything that limits the liquidity of the credit market is a bad idea. And I'm simply willing to debate Mr. Greenberger any time, but I don't know that this is the right place.
Well, Mr. Damgard should not only debate Mr. Greenberger, but he should debate Mr. Volcker, Mr. Greenspan, who has said, I made a terrible mistake when I allowed these credit default swaps to be deregulated. He should debate Mr. Cox, who was chair of the SEC. He should debate Mr. Geithner, who has now talked about putting these things. Mr. Damgard, the American public is flat on its back. They don't have a fancy suit and a fancy tie and represent all these bankers. Please let me finish my statement. You interrupted and said that the committee didn't want to hear what I had to say.
Gentlemen, I control the time as the questioner. You may proceed, but there will be a fair and equitable distribution of time for everyone to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas. I just want to say the American taxpayer has now guaranteed $6 trillion of the banking system. A large part of that are unregulated credit default swaps. Mr. Volcker says that. Mr. Greenspan, who is a great advocate of them, has said, I made a terrible mistake. Mr. Cox, a Republican who was a member of your House of Representatives, has called it a black regulatory hole and in September urged immediate action. There is an exemption provision in your draft discussion. If any of these naked credit default swaps are so important to liquidity, and by the way, the liquidity here is being given by the American taxpayer. These credit default swaps are operational today because we, as taxpayers, are giving AIG, Citigroup, Bank of America, Merrill Lynch money to pay off these bets. They have no economic purpose. They've dragged the country into a mire. 2% of the market, there are estimates out there that for every one credit default swap insuring real risk, there are 8 that are bets that mortgage homeowners will not pay their mortgages.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
think
Greenberger.
that's a terrible thing. It creates high moral hazard, and the chairman is absolutely right in putting that provision in his draft discussion.